A woman is trapped in a really dark place. Alone and afraid, she shouts for help, but no one answers. She has a cell phone, but it is broken, so she is unable to call for help. She is really terrified of being there all alone, and suddenly, something drags her away. The scene then cuts to two American couples. Jeff, Amy, Eric, and Stacy. They are enjoying the final days of their vacation in Mexico. While they are relaxing by the swimming pool, Amy realizes that she has lost her favorite earring, so the group begins to search for it. Seeing this from across the pool, a man dives in the swimming pool, retrieves the earring, and returns it to Amy. To show his gratitude, Jeff offers the man a drink, and they strike up a conversation. The man introduces himself as Matthias, and he is vacationing with his brother, Heinrich. Matthias explains that a few days ago, Heinrich met a female archaeologist, and went with her to explore a hidden Mayan temple ruin, but they have not returned yet. That Mayan temple's location is kept secret from others, so Matthias invites the couples to join him on a trek to find the ruins and locate his missing brother. Since tomorrow is the last day of their vacation, the couples want to end the trip with an adventure, so they agree to join Matthias. Matthias mentions that a Greek tourist named Dimitri and his two friends will also be joining them. That night, everyone attends a lively beach party. Amy gets drunk, so she starts acting goofy, and playfully boasts that her boyfriend Jeff is a medical student who will soon be a doctor. The next morning, everyone gets ready to head out, but Dimitri's two friends are completely wasted from the night before and cannot wake up. So Dimitri draws a map and leaves it behind so they can follow the trail once they sober up. Amy is also severely hungover, and she decides to stay behind and sleep all day. Jeff tries to convince Amy to come, asking why she would want to waste their last day of vacation in bed. Jeff is really excited to check out the ruins of a Mayan temple, and seeing his excitement, Amy agrees to go. Eric and Stacy are equally thrilled and ready for the adventure. Shortly after, they arrive in a village, where Matthias checks the map, and notes they still have to travel about 18 kilometers to reach their destination. They decide to hire a taxi, but upon hearing the location, the driver refuses to go. He warns the group that the area is highly dangerous. However, Dimitri offers him extra cash, and the driver finally agrees. The taxi drops them off at the entrance of a dense forest, and quickly speeds away. Seeing the taxi leave, Amy anxiously asks how they are going to get back. Jeff reassures Amy that he has the driver's card, and he will call him when they are ready to return. Although there appears to be no phone reception in the area, Matthias says he has a satellite phone with a global signal, so there is nothing to worry about. Then they find Heinrich's jeep parked nearby, and enter the forest following the map. Along the way, Matthias points out that a Mayan village is located somewhere near the temple. After walking for a while, they reach a dead end, where they see two children watching them. Amy and Stacy try to talk to them, but the children remain silent. Meanwhile, Matthias carefully inspects the area, and discovers a hidden path concealed by massive plants and leaves. Seeing this, one child immediately runs off, while the other just keeps staring at the group. Both Amy and Stacy grow deeply concerned, because they believe that the path was hidden for a safety reason, and they should return back. However, Jeff reasons that since the temple's location is supposed to be a secret, the archaeologists must have hidden the path to protect their excavation site. Dimitri, Matthias, and Eric agree with Jeff, and the group decides to press forward. After walking a bit further, they finally reach the ruins of the Mayan temple, which is a pyramid-shaped structure completely overgrown with a strange type of vine. As Amy begins taking photos, Matthias spots a tent at the top of the ruins, and he assumes that his brother is up there. Suddenly, a local Mayan villager arrives on horseback, and starts screaming at the group fiercely. Jeff tries to offer him cash, assuming he wants money, but the man refuses the bribe and continues to yell. Two more local men emerge carrying weapons, and the tension begins to escalate rapidly. Matthias shows them a photo of his brother on his phone, and tries to explain that they are searching for him. However, the local men do not seem to understand English or Spanish. They then take Matthias's phone, look at the picture, and begin arguing among themselves in their native Mayan tongue. Meanwhile, Amy remains focused on taking photos of the villagers, and she accidentally steps onto the mysterious vine. Seeing this, the armed men instantly raise their weapons, and they begin shouting at her aggressively. Dimitri believes that the local men are angry because Amy took their photos, so he takes the camera from her. In doing so, he also steps onto the vine. As Dimitri steps forward to hand over the camera, one villager shoots an arrow into his chest, while another fires a bullet into his head. Seeing the scene, the group is left in absolute shock. Now, the armed local men do not let them escape, so the group is forced to climb the steps of the ruined temple. When they reach the top of the ruins, they find nothing except 2 tents and a dig site. There is also no mobile reception, and the satellite phone Matthias had is now with the local men. He had handed it to them earlier when showing them a picture of his brother. Shortly after, more local men arrive and surround the ruins from all directions. While observing the armed men from above, Matthias finds his brother Heinrich's dead body wrapped in those mysterious vines. Realizing the villagers killed Heinrich, the group watches in horror as more locals arrive to set up camp around the ruins. Those locals are Mayan villagers, and Jeff concludes that something is deeply wrong with this ruined temple, because these Mayan villagers refuse to step onto the ruins, and now they are setting up camp to make sure that no one can escape. Jeff then urges his friends not to panic, and he reminds them that Dimitri's friends have a map of the area, so they will eventually come looking for them. Furthermore, since today is the final day of their vacation, the hotel will likely launch a search party when they fail to check out tomorrow. In this way, Jeff manages to console the group with the reassurance that help is on the way, and now he begins rationing their limited food and water. Suddenly, a phone begins ringing from the dig site below. Recognizing the ringtone, Matthias realizes it is Heinrich's phone, so he grabs the lantern and prepares to go down to retrieve it. As Matthias descends into the pit, the rope suddenly snaps, and he crashes to the bottom. Hearing Matthias groaning in pain, Stacy prepares to go down to check on him. Because the broken rope is now too short, she is unable to reach the floor. Stacy then sees that Matthias is severely injured, so she decides to jump the remaining distance to help him. Upon landing, a piece of glass from a shattered lantern pierces her knee. She slowly takes out the shard from her skin, and Matthias tells her that he is in agony and cannot even feel his legs. When Jeff and Eric call down to ask about his condition, Stacy replies that Matthias might have broken his back. To bring Matthias up, Jeff and Eric decide to improvise a backboard using material from one of the tents, but Amy disagrees with this plan. She argues by saying that it is impossible to safely move someone with a spinal injury, and she insists they should seek help from the Mayan villagers. However, Jeff and Eric know that they have no other choice. Jeff asks Amy to go down and help Stacy bring Matthias up, but she refuses. Amy is convinced that the Mayan villagers will help them, so she rushes down to ask for help. Seeing this, Jeff immediately chases after her to stop her. When Amy reaches the bottom, the villagers go on high alert. She begs them for help, but due to the language barrier, they do not understand her and keep their weapons pointed at her. Jeff warns Amy that they will not help, and he urges her to head back up. Amy is now really frustrated, so she drops to the ground, tears away a piece of the mysterious vine, and throws it at them. The vine hits a young boy, and seeing this, all the villagers get terrified, so they immediately back away from him. They even restrain the boy's mother to stop her from getting close to him. The village leader yells at the boy, and orders him to go inside the ruined temple. The boy is really scared, and he is unsure of what to do. As soon as the boy takes a few steps forward, the village leader shoots and kills him on the spot. Watching this horrifying scene, Jeff and Amy are left in absolute disbelief. The villagers signal Jeff and Amy to return to the top by pointing their weapons at them. So Jeff and Amy retreat back up the ruins, and now they know that the villagers are afraid of the mysterious vine, and anyone who touches it is never allowed to leave. Now, Jeff improvises a backboard from one of the tents to bring Matthias up, and Amy goes down into the pit to help Stacy. But the makeshift backboard still cannot reach the very bottom of the pit, so they are forced to lift Matthias up to it. Because of this movement, Matthias's spine breaks completely, so he cries out in agonizing pain. Once Jeff and Eric pull everyone up, night has already fallen. As a medical student, Jeff examines Matthias and warns the others that his condition is critical, so he must not be moved again. They search the tents for aspirin or any medication to ease his pain but find nothing. Instead, Amy discovers the key to Heinrich's jeep. Because of his fragile condition, they leave Matthias outside for the night by covering him with a blanket. As their first night in the ruins unfolds, Jeff and Eric decide to take turns watching over the villagers. The next morning, Stacy feels something moving inside her leg, so she wakes up to check, and she sees that the vine has entered her wound. Terrified, she wakes Eric, and he immediately pulls the vine out. Outside, Matthias tells Amy that he feels a strange sensation in his legs. When Amy removes the blanket to check, she witnesses a horrifying scene that the vines have begun stripping the flesh from Matthias's legs. Horrified, the group finally realizes just how dangerous this vine truly is. At that moment, Heinrich's phone begins ringing from inside the pit again. To retrieve it, Stacy and Amy go down. They begin searching for the phone by following the sound of the ringtone, and enter a small room through a narrow passage. There, they discover the dead body of a woman. She is the archaeologist Heinrich had met to find the ruins, and she is the very same woman shown at the beginning of the movie. The phone is clutched in her hand, but when Amy takes it, she finds that it is completely shattered. Suddenly, the ringtone echoes through the pit once more. Looking closer, Amy notices that the sound is actually emanating from the flowers of the vine. She tries to touch the flower, but suddenly, the vine grabs her hand. She manages to break free, and the entire vine begins to shake violently. Amy and Stacy are terrified, so they flee the room, and shout for Jeff and Eric to pull them up. The vines begin chasing after them by slithering like a snake. As Jeff and Eric quickly try to pull them up, the vines try to consume Amy and Stacy. Shortly after, Jeff and Eric manage to pull them up, and the girls explain everything to the boys, but Jeff and Eric have a hard time believing that the vines can move and mimic sounds. Amy argues that the villagers have quarantined them in the ruins to die. She then reveals that she has found a key to Heinrich's jeep, and they must try to escape. Eric and Stacy agree with her, but Jeff disagrees. He points out that the villagers have weapons, and they even killed their own child, so making any escape attempt is too risky. Instead, he insists they must wait for help, reminding them that Dimitri's friends will be there soon. If not, their parents will start searching for them, because 4 Americans on vacation do not just disappear. In this way, Jeff manages to convince them that they should wait for the rescue, and afterward, he checks Matthias's legs. He warns the others that Matthias's legs are heavily infected, so they must be amputated. Although Amy and Eric are hesitant, Matthias overhears the conversation, and he begs them to cut them off. As they prepare for the gruesome task, Stacy and Amy stay inside the tent, while Jeff and Eric begin cutting Matthias's legs. Matthias screams in agony, and though the villagers hear his painful scream, they do nothing, and simply continue guarding the ruins. Finally, Jeff and Eric manage to amputate both of his legs, and suddenly, the vines slowly grab the severed limbs and drag them away. Witnessing this, Jeff and Eric finally believe the girl's statement that the vines can move and mimic sounds. As their second night on the ruins unfolds, Jeff climbs down to keep an eye on the villagers. Meanwhile, Stacy is convinced that the vines have entered her body through her wounds, so she begins acting weird. Later, Eric and Amy step outside the tent and talk about their dire situation. Amy gets emotional and begins to cry, so Eric tries to comfort her. Meanwhile, inside the tent, the vines begin to play tricks on Stacy by mimicking the sound of Eric and Amy getting physically intimate. Hearing this, Stacy immediately leaves the tent and confronts them. Jeff arrives at that moment, so Stacy tells him what she heard, and she starts arguing with Eric and Amy. While they are arguing, the vines enter Matthias's mouth and begin suffocating him. Jeff notices this and tries to help, but it is too late to save him. Seeing this, Stacy begins to panic, because she believes that the vines are inside her body and it will soon consume her. She then grabs a knife and tries to cut herself to remove the vines from her body. However, Jeff snatches the knife away, and Eric tries to calm her down, but this only makes Stacy angrier. She screams, "You are not listening to me," and suddenly, the vine's flowers mimic Stacy's voice by repeating her words, "You are not listening to me." Stacy becomes distressed by the sound of her own voice echoing towards her, so Amy tries to comfort Stacy, and in this way, the group's second night wears on. The next morning, Jeff and Amy see the villagers spreading salt around the ruins. Jeff believes that the villagers are doing this to keep the vines from spreading further. Eric then calls Jeff and Amy into the tent, where they see the vines crawling like worms under Stacy's skin. Horrified, they quickly prepare to extract the vines. First, Jeff cuts into Stacy's leg, and then he cuts into her back to pull the vines out. After this brutal and gruesome task, they leave Stacy to rest. By now, their rations are almost entirely gone. As they sit down to share the last pieces of food, Stacy wakes up. She insists that she can still feel the vines moving inside her, and begs Jeff to cut them out, but Jeff refuses to cut her any further. Amy then hands Stacy alcohol to help ease her pain, but as Stacy takes a sip, they notice a vine crawling beneath the skin of her forehead. They pretend not to notice, but Stacy catches them looking. She keeps telling them that she can still feel the vines inside her body, and she breaks down in tears. Seeing his girlfriend's deteriorating condition, Eric tells Jeff that he will try to escape tonight. This time, Jeff says nothing, because he knows that their situation is dire and it is no longer worth waiting for help. Afterward, they all go to sleep inside the tent. Sometime later, Stacy wakes up from the rustling noises made by the vines. She slips outside and begins searching for the knife. As soon as she finds it, the vines begin to mimic her voice. Just like the night before, the vine's flowers sound exactly like Stacy, and it is manipulating Stacy to cut herself. Soon after, Eric, Jeff, and Amy are awakened by Stacy's groans. They see that Stacy is cutting herself to extract the vines from her body with the knife. Jeff tries to intervene, but in her frantic state, she slashes Jeff's hand. Eric also tries to stop Stacy, but she accidentally strikes him in the chest. Eric collapses to the ground, and soon, he dies. Seeing his best friend die right in front of him, Jeff breaks down completely, while Stacy cries uncontrollably over her boyfriend's death in Amy's lap. Meanwhile, the vines slowly begin to drag Eric's body away. Jeff tries to pull him back, but he is unable to free his friend from the grasp of the deadly vines. By now, Stacy's condition is utterly miserable. She tells Amy that she is in too much pain, and begs her to end her life. Once again, the vines mimic Stacy's voice, repeatedly chanting for her death. Witnessing their helpless and miserable condition, Jeff hits his lowest point. He picks up the knife, and kills Stacy to free her from her agony. All of their pain and suffering are heard by the villagers, and they keep guarding the ruins to prevent them from escaping. Now, Jeff devises a plan to help Amy escape. He smears blood all over her, and explains what she needs to do. After that, Jeff carries Amy in his arms and takes her down to face the villagers. Amy pretends to be dead, so Jeff puts her down on the ground, and he starts walking away. Jeff distracts the villagers by shouting about his life and his dream of becoming a doctor. Even though the villagers do not understand what he is saying, they follow him by keeping their focus entirely on him. Once Jeff believes he is far enough away, he steps forward, and calls out Amy's name, signaling her to stand up and run. The villagers instantly shoot arrows at Jeff, and begin chasing Amy. Following Jeff's instructions, Amy keeps running without looking back. The village leader realizes that Jeff orchestrated the distraction to save Amy. He then draws his gun, and shoots Jeff. Amy hears the gunshot, and she realizes that Jeff is dead. She then forces herself to keep running until she reaches Heinrich's jeep. She starts the vehicle, and finally escapes the ruins. However, while driving, she notices that the vines are already crawling under the skin of her face. The scene then cuts to Dimitri's two Greek friends. They have arrived at the ruins by following the map left by Dimitri, and the movie ends. This movie also features an alternate ending. In this version, the scene cuts to a cemetery where a caretaker is walking and whistling. He then hears something mimicking his whistle. He tracks the sound, and notices that it is coming from Amy's grave, where the predatory vines have already begun to grow. The caretaker touches the vines, and the alternate ending cuts to black. The movie portrays a highly dangerous and predatory vine. It feeds on living things, and acts as a parasite inside the host's body to spread effortlessly. Despite being dangerous, it is also remarkably clever and manipulative. Its flowers can mimic any type of sound, and by using this ability, it can manipulate its target. For instance, by mimicking a ringing cell phone, it lured Matthias down into the pit, causing him to break his back. It also completely manipulated Stacy by sounding like a voice inside her head. Furthermore, while the group was distracted by Stacy's argument with Eric and Amy, the vine seized the opportunity to kill Matthias. The Mayan villagers know that the vine is really dangerous, so they are guarding the ruins to isolate the threat. They actively work to conceal the location from the outside world, and lay borders of salt around the ruins to keep the growth contained. Anyone who makes contact with the vines is strictly quarantined on the ruins and left to die. However, because Amy managed to escape, the alternate ending implies that the unstoppable vines will inevitably spread everywhere. So that was the movie, The Ruins. It was released in 2008, and it is a horror thriller movie. Comment down below with your thoughts on this film, and remember to subscribe to the channel for more movie breaks.